Tsar Nicholas called for the first organized international meeting for demilitarization and defining rules of war. This meeting was a precursor to international peace meetings like the Geneva Convention. He was able to bring together vastly different leaders from 101 nations under a banner of peace. Even mortal enemies like France and Germany were able to discuss peace under our friend Nick. As a huge peacemaker in all history, he set a foundation for human rights, the treatment of prisoners, and civilians in war. He was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 1901 for his work on the conventions. Here is an accurate representation of the 1899 Hague Conventions and the events surrounding them.
How could I make this world more dope? I know! A peace conference! I'll bring all the nations together.
Killing prisoners is 0 out of 8.
I will not negotiate with you German scum!
Heck off, frog legs! Hey, can't we just get along, fellas?
Thanks, Nick!
Tsar Nicholas had huge pride in his country and fought for what he believed were Russia's best interests, including expanding territory. He wasn't down for the westernization of Russia, but wanted to expand their empire to benefit his nation. When on the front lines of war, Russia didn't do so hot, but the people at home blamed Nicky instead of the army itself. Nicky gritted and sat there and bore all that ridicule. Keeping Russia in the forefront of his mind at all times, Nicholas was able to govern this country in a trying time of war. Also, industrial unrest had been occurring before the war, and it came to a halt during the war, just like Sneaky Nick knew it would. Because of his intense goal to keep Russia's interests before his own, Tsar Nicholas was able to stop unrest amongst industrial workers and also make efforts on the battlefronts to expand his nation. While doing all this for Russia's benefit, he still managed to keep the dirty ways of the West out and ensure Russia's ways would live on forever.
Amen.
Hey guys, I know we all have our differences. You know one thing that we all care about, that we all put above ourselves? Our families. Naturally, we all want a leader of this great country that represents that duty to their family. Why would you want someone to take care of our country, our wives, our children, if you won't take care of his own? Stalin. Well, you know who pours and pours and pours out his heart for his beloved children? Little Nicky!
Dad, the band-aids aren't working. I'm bleeding a lot.
Don't worry, son, we'll fix you up.
Let's go.
You see, he and his wife, Alexandra, had 4 daughters and a son named Alexei. But Alexei had a terrible illness that was killing him. So Nicky and his wife ran all over Russia, trying to find someone to help their boy. You see, even though he may act tough, Nicky has a heart as warm as a nuclear fire. Don't worry, son. You're in good hands, 'cause Nicky Nick's a family man. Still not convinced? Well, let's compare to this other guy named Stalin. Nicky, good. Stalin, bad. Sure, Nicky might have defended his throne, but Stalin killed 50 million people. Nicky, good. Stalin, bad. And you know how earlier we talked about how great of a father and husband Nicky was? Well, Stalin was not. In fact, Stalin was such a terrible father that both his son and his second wife killed themselves. Let's watch some actual footage of this event.
Hey, Pop, how's it going?
Why can't you be a better Russian?
Don't talk to my son like
Why
that.
can't you be a better Russian?
You see, when Stalin is in power, all of your wives and your children will kill themselves too. So join us. Don't let that happen. Join us when we say, Nicky, good. Stalin, bad.
To begin with, Nicky never wanted to succeed his father as Tsar. His 49-year-old father, Tsar Alexander III, died suddenly in November of 1894, forcing him onto the throne. Nicky was ill-disposed to rule. Instead of grabbing the reins of power, Nicky, 26, was consumed by grief. He wrote of his late father, "It was the death of a saint. Lord, help us in these terrible days." The basic unwillingness to keep his father's name alive in a time of birth on a new leader forced little Nicky to struggle at the head of power. Swallowed up in self-pity, he bemoaned his fate as the new Tsar, pathetically begging others to help him. Then the outbreak of World War I in 1914 temporarily strengthened the monarchy, with Russia allied to France and Britain against Austria-Hungary and Germany. In mid-1915, Nicholas made the disastrous decision to take direct command over the Russian armies. From then on, every military failure was directly associated with him.
Tsar Nicholas II saw himself as a common man, and he meant to represent this in his leadership. Nicholas II formed the first Russian State Duma, a legislative group with the objective of representing the common man in Russian politics. He also took personal control over the armies of Russia, in a time when many leaders avoided the war room. This demonstrates his patriotism and genuine concern for the Russian people. Robert K. Massey, a famous Russian historian, explains, quote, "Nicholas was a good man. The historical evidence of personal charm, gentleness, love of family, deep religious faith, and strong Russian patriotism is too overwhelming to be denied." End quote. The values of Tsar Nicholas II aligned with those of the common Russian people, and he intended to uphold them with the strength and resiliency of a powerful Tsar.
Little Nicky!